Charles Moore, a marine researcher, once said, "All the king's horses and all the king's men will never gather up the plastic and put the ocean back together again." Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and welcome to the third episode of Cohabitat, a project initiated by the Rotaract Club of Colombo East and carried out jointly with the Wildlife and Nature Protection Society. As Sylvia Earle once said, "It's the worst of time, but it's the best of times because we still have a chance." This on its own enunciates the importance of seminars such as these to create awareness among general public about the importance of protecting and preserving marine life and wildlife. Now, today we have a very special guest here with us today. He is a conservation biologist specialized in terrestrial and marine mammals. His research mainly focuses on the lesser studied species of marine mammals, such as the Indian Ocean humpback dolphin, the Indo-Pacific finless porpoise, the sperm whales, and the dugongs. Now, he also currently serves as a regional member of the IUCN Species Survival Group, Sirena Specialist Group, and he has 25 years of experience in the marine sphere, spanning across an array of marine conservation and research organizations, such as the Center for Research on Indian Ocean Marine Mammals, the National Aquatic Resource Research and Development Agency, the Whale and Dolphin Conservation UK, to name a few. Further, he is an author of the Field of Identification Guide to the Marine Mammals of Sri Lanka. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, presenting you our speaker for this evening, Dr. Ranil Nanayakkara. Welcome, Doctor. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
No worries.
Okay, Doctor, I understand that you have a presentation that you've prepared for us. So
that's right, yeah.
I'm giving this floor up to you. It's all yours. Please go ahead.
Well, to give you guys a brief, I'll first speak on the Sperm Project that we have been conducting in Sri Lanka for the last 10 years. And basically, the focal point of the project is the eastern half of the Gulf of Mannar. And this project was instigated in 2010 after the war ended, because prior to 2010, this area was inaccessible to researchers and other scientists. So the main focal point of our Sperm Project is we want to get a rough consensus and idea of their codas. That's their clicks, because that has a unique. As I go along the presentation, you will get a in-depth knowledge on that, because it's really the codas differ from region to region. So we want, because there hasn't been any proper studies in Sri Lanka on the sperm whales after the 1980s. So we wanted to get an idea on what sort of animals are found here. Are they coming from different parts of the world, or do we have a unique population? And at the same time, we are maintaining a photo ID catalog, and also to get a rough idea of their social units and group size, because nothing is basically known in the Indian Ocean. And also the factors influencing the aggregation, because you get a lot of, in the late part of March, early part of April, you get large pods, what you call superpods, who come into the eastern half of the Gulf of Mannar to mate, to calve, and so on. So we want to get an understanding as to why these animals come into this particular area of the Indian Ocean. And to give you a brief on the sperm whale, it is the largest living predator on Earth, and it has the largest brain, and it also emits the loudest noise in the animal kingdom. And we also have two other sperm whales. That's a pygmy sperm whale and the dwarf sperm whale, but they differ vastly from the actual the main sperm whale, because the dwarf and the pygmy belong to a genus called Kogia, whereas the main sperm, but the sperm whale, our focal point is on the Macrocephalus, Physeter macrocephalus. That's the great sperm whale. And the small two species are much smaller, whereas the great sperm whale, the females grow to between 11 to 12 meters, and the male grows to over 60 feet, 60 to 65, between 60 to 65 feet. And whereas the pygmy and the dwarves are a mere 3 to 4 meters in length. And the sperm whale is very famous from Hermie Melville's classic Moby Dick. And I think most of you would have read it, and because it was part of, I don't know about in Sri Lanka, but in some parts of the globe, it is actually part of the GC O-level English literature. They cover that novel as well, Moby Dick. And also, the sperm whale was again made famous by one particular individual who sank the whaling ship Essex in 1820. And that is what really got Hermine Melville to write this book on Moby Dick, because he covers most of what the incidents that took place with the sinking of the Essex. And also, the reason why we chose the sperm whale is because no one really knows, because now only we're getting to understand their social structures and how complex they are. And because they were basically hunted almost to the verge of extinction in certain parts of the world. Luckily for Sri Lanka, we didn't have that issue, but during the 19th century, the early part of the 20th century, we did have Soviet whalers coming into close to our waters to basically exclusive economy zone, but we don't have a proper idea as to how many animals were taken during that period. But places like Peru and that area, the males were basically killed because the males are larger, and the reason why they go after the sperm whale is because of the spermatheca oil that is basically used for soap, then to manufacture candles, and sometimes it's used for perfume as well. And so is ambergris, that is the basically the excrete of the sperm whale, which is covered. The squid beaks are covered with mucus, and these are excreted by the sperm whale, and these are used for cosmetics and also for perfumes. So it's a highly valued. Even to date, there are people who spend 20,000-30,000 US dollars to purchase these what they call ambergris. And like I mentioned earlier, their social structure is very, very complex. It is similar to elephants, chimpanzees, because generally in a pod you get between 10 to 15 individuals in it, and mainly it consists of maternal pods, what you call maternal pods, because the males, once they are about between 8 to 10 years, they leave the maternal pods and they go to colder waters. And when the maternal pods basically takes care of one female's young and suckles them as well till the female goes and dives deep down, because they dive to about, say, between 2,500 to 3,000 feet when they're foraging. So while a group, now if you say you get for example a group of 10 to 15 individuals in one pod, till half of them go and forage, the other stay on the surface looking after the calves of the females that are foraging. So that way it's very, very complex, and now only we're getting to understand what sort of social behavior and complexities there is within these animal groups. And also research carried out in other parts of the world has shown that the sperm whales have a unique accent. When you say accent, they use codas and clicks to basically communicate. It's unique in the sense it differs from place to place and from region to region. And in fact, within the Indian Ocean itself, the animals in Madagascar have a different click pattern to the ones found in Sri Lanka. So that differs. And also, though they do come into, now say for example, the Sri Lankan waters and they go back, they do not, that their clicks do not, the form of the click does not change. So I have a small video for you guys to play it so you get a rough idea as to what we mean by these codas and clicks. Now this is from Sri Lanka. This is the sound of the sperm whales found in our waters. and our clicks go as click, 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 and then you get a sudden burst of 4 to 5 clicks in close proximity to each other. Whereas now, for example, in the Mediterranean Sea, you get a click, 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 and just the 4 clicks. Whereas in Sri Lanka, you get the 2 to 3 clicks with, say, about a 2-3 second gap between, and then you get the sudden burst of 4 to 5 clicks going on. So that itself, when we compare with other clicks and codas from other regions of the world, it's totally different. And we have, in fact, we are in the process of writing up a few publications, peer-reviewed publications on these uniqueness of the clicks found in Sri Lanka. And in fact, we might have a unique population of sperm whales as well as with the blue whales. And the other part of our study is basically photo identification. The reason, when I say photo identification, we use photo ID to record a particular individual animal over seasons. So now, for example, on the left-hand side, you can see at the bottom, it says 2011 fluke 007. So that means this animal was first recorded in 2011. Fluke, in the sense, the ID feature is its fluke, the tail, and 007 is it's the 7th animal that we have ID'd in 2011. And on the right hand side, again, it's an animal from 2011. Again, it's a fluke, but this particular number is 2012. I mean 0012. So that shows that that animal was recorded in 2011, but it's the 12th different individual that we have recorded today. And these 2 individuals have, from 2011 to date, we have seen them in every season, and they come in all the time. And these are 2 females. And also there are other scars that we use to ID, but it's not as accurate as the fluke. We like you can see in the dorsal fin, this particular animal has a few scars. And then also this animal, the one closest to us, you can see part of his jaw missing. Again, this is a male, and this male has been coming into our waters again from 2012 to date. It has been seen every season. That is between end March to April. That is the time of the breeding and the calving season in the eastern half of the Gulf of Mannar. And their social units, again, is very, very complex. So what we have studied and what we have seen, the animals that are found throughout the year in our waters are basically maternal pods. And like I mentioned earlier, the males during around about February, they start coming in from the colder waters, from the equatorial waters. They start coming into the eastern half of the Gulf of Mannar to mate and calve. And again, this is a pot of females. That though we see only 4 on the surface, there was about 8 to 10 individuals below the much deeper in deeper waters, at least about another 10 meters or so beneath these animals. And you can see there's sort of a trail of smoke. That is, that animal is defecating, because we were in the water, and when they get bit scared and agitated, they defecate to sort of ward off the predator. And again, this is again one of these maternal pods. These are the females that were sticking at the surface with the calves, while the rest of the pod were down, diving deep to forage for food. And when we try to get through our studies, we are trying to get an understanding of the diet as well, which is very difficult when it comes to sperm whales. And these animals were basically regurgitated by the sperm whales at different, again in the eastern half of the Gulf of Mannar, in different years when we were observing these animals. And we have also, when a sperm whale washes ashore, we try our best to go and inspect its stomach content. And this is a few. This is basically a sample of the stomach contents that we've been analyzing. These are all squid beaks, because their main prey are types of squid, and they also are supposed to feed on the giant squid in other parts of the world, like in New Zealand, Australia, and Japan, and so on. So this is just a sample of the squid beaks that we've been analyzing from the sperm whale stomach content. And why there is killer whales is we are also having a sort of, it's not exactly, it's part of the sperm whale project, because during this period when you get the sperm whales coming and aggregating in, large numbers in the eastern half of the Gulf of Mannar, we also get the transient killer whales coming in. Why is it transient killer whales? The transient killer whales are the ones that are known to feed on other marine mammals, whereas the resident and the offshore species really feed on fish and so on. So we have been observing, because every year you get the transients coming in, and we have been maintaining a catalog of the transient killer whales as well. As you can see, these are the characteristics and identification characteristics of each individual that we have seen. These are just 2 individuals. To date, we have basically ID'd about 30 individuals, and about 5 of them have been resighted in the Gulf, the Gulf of Oman as well, in the Red Sea. And also there are 2 to 4 individuals that have been seen in the waters of Maldives as well. So we are trying to maintain a catalog and sort of collaborate. We have collaborated with the Indian Ocean Orca project. So we basically give our whatever animals we record, we take their photographs and we share it with them, and also at the same time we maintain our own database as well. And this is why I have a photograph of the dugong. Is we also have a project on the dugong. Again, it's in the same area in the Gulf of Mannar and the Pork Bay. The dugong is one unique animal because it is the only herbivorous marine mammal, and its last foothold in Sri Lanka is the Gulf of basically the Pork Bay and the Gulf of Mannar, because they are seagrass feeders. They only eat seagrass and they're grazers. And the seagrass beds are basically being destroyed, and so is the dugong population is basically being decimated, because they are hunted for their meat, and also the meat fetches a very, very high price in that particular areas. A kilo of dugong flesh sells between about 1,200 to 2,000 rupees per kg. And so we are trying to basically create awareness among the fisher folk in that particular area. It's from the Pork Strait up to Jaffna. We are trying to create awareness and make them understand the importance of dugongs, because dugongs, being grazers, they feed in the seagrass beds, and when they defecate, their fecal matter basically is like fertilizer. It helps the seagrass beds flourish, and also at the same time, the seagrass beds are nursery grounds for myriad of species of marine organisms, like skate, rays, trevally, shark, and so on. So if you basically, if the dugong is lost, that particular whole ecosystem will collapse. So what we are trying to do is, basically change the mindset of the fisher in that area, and get them to understand the importance of the species. And in that same area, we have another 2 unique species that we've been studying, and they are just as the dugong, they are endangered species. One is the Indo-Pacific finless porpoise. It is a really small species of cetacean, about 5 to 6 feet in length, and it's because sometimes people get confused and mistake them for the dugongs, because the finless porpoise and the dugong, they both lack a dorsal fin. So we've been studying the finless porpoise. Again, it's a nearshore species, so it comes into sort of conflict with the fisher, and also at the same time, not only conflict, they are threatened by the activities, different activities of the fisher folk in that area. And they are bycatch. Very often they get caught in nets, and in fact, even beach per se in nets, they're caught on a regular basis. But now, since we have been conducting these awareness programs, we have seen that, or at least people who do the monitoring for us have observed that if these animals are caught, the fisher generally put them back to the ocean. But there are certainly 1 or 2 instances where they have actually slaughtered these animals for their meat. And the other unique species is the Indian Ocean humpback dolphin, which till recently we thought that the only population we have is of in the Putlam Lagoon. There was a population in the Putlam Lagoon, and we thought that was the only population that we had in Sri Lanka. But our research has shown that there is another population that is found in the Pork Strait, and also, but the particular population that is found in the Pork Strait moved to and from between India and Sri Lanka. And the other population we have is in the eastern part of the country, around Batiklo, Panama, that area. So that is a new population that we discovered just last year. So we are basically carrying out a research because we can see there's some morphological differences between the population found in this particular area, and also in but it differs from the Putlam population. And this is the reason I have shown you where the individuals is, so that you get a rough idea as to what the animal looks like. Because out at sea, you only see the dorsal fin and a bit more as the surface, but you do not see the whole animal as a whole. So sorry that I had used these disturbing photographs. This is of a humpback dolphin that was a victim of dynamite fishing in the Putlam Lagoon. And that is basically, I just want to give you guys a brief on what we do, and and if you guys have any questions, I can answer. We can take it from there. And yeah, thank you. And we also have these responsible whale watching programs that we've been carrying out in Miris, Kalpitia, and Trinco. So I just thought I'll just chuck these flyers there, so you guys know what we do to sort of make people aware of being not only earning an income, but being responsible as well and giving something back to the species.
Thank you, Dr. Ranil, for that very informative and very interesting presentation. I'm pretty sure everyone learned a lot, especially even I learned a lot through that presentation. So, Doctor, are you ready for some question and answer?
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so my first question is, in your opinion, and since this is more or less your expertise, why are whales becoming more and more extinct?
The reason, but when you, there are only certain species that are really going into extinction or facing extinction. But all causes are basically anthropogenic. It's human-induced causes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there are certain populations now, for example, like humpback whales, the populations are increasing in certain areas of the world. But when you take the southern right whales and bow-headed whales, the populations are basically dropping. So you can't, as a whole, you can't say that all sort of, all cetaceans are facing extinction. It really depends, but it's all to do with different. Now, for example, if you take the larger whales, it's to do with ship strikes, ghost nets, then also at the same time, the sort of, what do we call it, the insecticides, the pesticides that are accumulating, microplastic, and so on. And also at the same time, when you there is a sort of competition between us and them for resources as well, because for example, the fishing methods that we use and what we're doing at the moment as a whole globally is unsustainable. So we are basically taking everything that is there, but we are not leaving anything for them to eat as well. So that component is also there in a big way. So I would say, yeah, those are the main threats faced by them. And when it comes to the smaller cetaceans, of course, it's bycatch. Then some are killed for the meat. Then some individuals are basically used. Them flesh is used for shark longline fishing. Mm-hmm. So it's whatever it is, and also at the same time, different causes. Like some of them have sort of carcinogenic, cancer-causing components in them. Like few animals that we have carried out necropsies, we have seen that they have carcinogenic substances in them. So that again is because of human activity. Mm-hmm. So it's basically, as a whole, it's activities that's driving them to extinction.
Clearly, humans are a very common factor in all of these problems. So, moving on to our next question, Doctor. Very recently in Panadura, there were more than 100 whales that were washed ashore. Why do is this phenomena called beaching? And like why does this happen? What causes this phenomena to happen?
One thing that, yeah, it is called beaching or stranding.
Okay.
The particular species that came ashore is what we call the short fin pilot whale. Because you have two species, you get the long fin and the short fin. The long fin is found in temperate waters, and the short fin is the ones you found in tropical waters. So
Hmm.
out of that is a short fin pilot whale, and they are prone to stranding. If you, on a global context, they are the animals that is most likely to strand if anything goes wrong.
Hmm.
So they are, just before this, a few months ago in Tasmania, there was a huge pod of pilot whales that stranded, that was over 400 plus animals. And
Hmm.
then it was the Sri Lankan incident, and not even a few days ago in New Zealand, again there was 100 plus pod of pilot whales that stranded. The reason being is they basically follow a leader. So
Hmm.
that's why they follow a leader. So whatever the leader does, now say for example, if the animal feels sick or whatever, and it comes towards the beach, then the rest of the pod follows it. So that is the biggest problem. So this is a global phenomenon. Like everyone has been observing it. Probably any person who has been doing research on cetaceans for all over the world, the pilot whale is one of the species most likely to strand for the slightest
Hmm.
sort of change in weather. Even I'm not saying that this is not nothing to do with sort of a human induced thing or sonar or whatever. But what I'm saying is, as a whole, these guys, the pilot whales, they easily strand. They easily strand, and but they well, after about 2-3 days later, there was a lot of naval activity, and in Kalpite normally you don't get large pods of blue whales, but we were like observing between 8 to 10 individuals in a pod in a sort of a 3 to 4 square kilometer area. So it might, that naval exercise might have had an effect on these animals, but generally what they do is, why they come ashore is they basically follow the pod, they follow the leader. So the leader comes towards shore, the rest of them follow. So that is phenomena with the pilot whales, which we still are learning as to why this is done.
That's very interesting. So, Doctor, moving on to our next question. In your expertise, what are the biggest issues that the dolphins and the whales have to face nowadays?
What I feel is, adding with the fisheries activities, we also have for the especially the larger whales, like I mentioned earlier, the ship strikes. And to add to all that, we also have now we use sonar for everything, because though it doesn't sort of affect the baleen whales, because we have, when you take cetaceans, they're categorized into two groups. One is the baleen whales, where you get the blue, the fin whale, the Bruder's whale, the humpback whales, and then you get the other category, which is the tooth whales, where that's where you get the sperm whales, the pilot whales, the dolphins. All of them come under the category tooth whales, and these guys use sonar to navigate, and they also use sonar, biosonar to bioacoustic sonar to forage as well. So when you have an alien sound coming in, what happens is they get disoriented. So sometimes, like, they can strand. Then you get instances where they have got a shock by hearing this, where they have when they are foraging deep down, where they have surfaced really fast, and where they've got the bends. That bends again, even our divers also get it. That is when you come too fast and carbon dioxide builds up in your system. So they get that as well, because several individuals that we have basically carried out necropsies have shown that they have bends, but that again is a huge issue. So what I see is now, and also certain types of fishing gear, and there's also fisher who basically discard certain nets when it's damaged out at sea, and that is basically a ghost net, and those are like death traps. So it's like all these little things basically compound the threats manifold. There's so many things in a vast area, but the main is these fishing activities, and also there are certain areas where in Sri Lanka where we have noticed where they use types of nets that are banned. So those cannot be detected by the animals' sonar as well. So those are the threats that they face, and also microplastic is becoming a huge problem. Though we think that the plastic that we get out in the ocean is from the ocean, is actually what's on land that basically washes down to the sea. So to basically stop all this and to protect them, we have to first stop, polluting on on land.
Okay. So, Doctor, our next question is, now, as the society, what can we do to save our marine life?
Uh, but as a conservation biologist, I would say not marine life, to save all life. Basically, is
Yeah.
we have to, though there is a lot of things, like sort of rules and regulation gazetted everything down in black and white. We should also make an effort to sort of conserve it. So what we could do is the little things, like say for example, even the plastic bag that we sometimes see people throwing out of their car windows. If we keep it and take it and dispose it of in a proper way. Now another huge issue we are seeing is face masks. Because of COVID-19, there are a lot of face masks now all over the place, and in our waterways and even in the ocean. So again, the disposing of that, and also to be a bit more conscious, if I know it's very hard to say, it's easy to say, said than done. But even if you do go shopping, make sure that you take your own bag. If you go and do your grocery shopping, and make sure that leave that bag behind. Don't use the plastic bags. Use sort of recyclable bags, and also uh, paper bags and so on. So those are the things you can do, and also at the same time, sort of we can also, I know it's a bit difficult to sort of create awareness and inculcate something to a sort of a mature person, but we can change the mindset of the younger individuals. So if you're really conscious, if you now itself you sort of tell the do's and don'ts and to your children, your younger siblings, your nieces and nephews, that will really help. And in the long run, perhaps when we are not there, perhaps they'll do something to protect Mother Earth.
Yeah. So, Doctor, this is our last question to you. What is the message that you would like to leave with our audience today?
What I would say is, I tell this all the time, and I tell it to everyone as well, even to when I go for lectures. This is basically this planet, this whole universe, this galaxy does not belong only to us. There are other organisms that play just as an important part as us, and it is one big wheel, like what they say, the circle of life. So one spoke falls out, the whole system will collapse. And rather than going in for sort of products of commerce and economic benefit, at the same time, it's good to go because nowadays money is everything. But it is good to sort of whatever you do it in a sort of responsible way. Because a very good example is I was speaking to a professor just the other day, and he was saying that. Uh, People don't understand, and they use insecticides, pesticides, all that, and the insects, the bees, and so on. Those all those insects are missing. But at the same time, those very people use that substances are complaining, saying that the crop is not very good, that the crop is falling. They don't have a good yield. So the reason they don't have a good yield is because they're using so much insecticides and pesticides and killing the natural pollinators.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my message: is be responsible and give something back while taking.
Yes. Be responsible. That is a very good message that people need to actually follow. And with that, we wrap up today's session. Thank you so much, Dr. Ranil, for taking your valuable time and being with us here today. We definitely learned a lot from today's session. So, to our audience, thank you so much for being here, taking the time to be here. There will be a very short video played right after this session. Please stay tuned. President Clinton once said, "We know that we are protecting our future when we protect our oceans." With that, ladies and gentlemen, this live session has come to an end. Have a very good night.